Hi everyone. Hi, hope everyone can hear me. A few technical hiccups, but we're finally here. So my name's Cassius Rayner and I'm an iPhone cinematographer, or that's what I'm known for. Obviously, I've been a professional filmmaker for over 20 years and now I'm shooting everything on mobile phones. So wherever you are in the world, I'm really pleased that you could come and join me for this fairly short session, but I hope to compact as much as I can into it about mobile filmmaking and in particular Filmic Pro and how we can get the best out of that specific app. So I'd just like to say to everyone around the world that I hope that during COVID-19 you've all been safe and you're all well, and it's really great that you can come and join me here. So in a minute I'm just going to show you a short video which gives samples of various projects that I've shot over the last year or so. And it just gives you a real flavor and an idea of what you can do with a phone. Yeah, hopefully it will give you some inspiration. Now, what I want to talk about in this session is we're going to look at a few short films, short videos that I'll talk you through. And then we'll look at the actual Filmic Pro app itself, and we'll look at and tackle certain things around the interface. We'll look at the manual focus and exposure and how do we get it all set up and how we get started. So hopefully in this session, it's about getting you set up and ready to start the journey, because with everything in filmmaking, it's practice. Practice makes everything. So you've got to just keep practicing as much as you can. Don't get frustrated with it. It takes time. Mobile phones do behave differently than mainstream camera systems. So it takes a bit of adjustment and a bit of time to get around it. But hopefully we can go over to the first video that I want to show you, which is a combination of what we call a show reel. We'll have a combination of videos, clips to show you to give you an idea. So hopefully we can click over to that now. Okay, great. So it just hopefully gives you an idea of what is possible. In those video clips is a combination of documentaries, music videos, branded content, drama, and there's a whole mix of different things. So it shows, obviously, mobile phones have the capability, obviously with the right apps, they really have the capability to shoot great professional content. My dream, my passion with mobile filmmaking is that it gets to a point that we don't even have to explain that it was shot on a mobile phone. We are filmmakers. That's what we're about. It just is a tool that we use, or I use, to be able to shoot my content on. So that for me is key. And I hope in the near future, and I feel it's coming with mobile filmmaking, I feel that we're at that stage of the revolution of filmmaking, in the sense of when DSLRs came out, it was a whole new thing that independently, you know, lots of filmmakers could go out and actually shoot great video on DSLR cameras. And I think we're in that place with mobile phones, and particularly the manufacturers and the attention that they're giving to the actual cameras that they're building in the phones. We are really going to another level with it. And that's what really excites me as a filmmaker and a creative, that it gets to that level. And we're already going there, as I say. Steven Soderbergh, Sean Baker, all these top guys making films, feature films, Unsane. You know, we've got the Netflix film that Soderbergh did, High Flying Bird. Sean Baker's amazing, Tangerine. And to be honest, there's many more that are actually in that world. And there's actually a new film called Ghost, which is a British feature film, which has just come out. So everyone's exploring it, and including another one from New Zealand, Blue Moon. Brilliant stuff. And it shows that we can cross that boundary using mobile phones. So I want to move on to the present situation. I shot a short video just to give you an idea of shooting in the streets at night and what's capable with Filmic Pro. How can you shoot in low light and keep really good quality? So times have been difficult for everyone, particularly, you know, for obviously frontline workers, horrendous for all of them. And obviously it's had an impact on the film industry. But, you know, it's important to stay creative, whether you've got paid work or not, and you have a mobile phone in your pocket, you have Filmic Pro app, just go out and shoot and document and capture what you can. So this next video is a part of a series I did in London called London Falls Silent. And this is just the West End during the crisis, but it just gives you an idea under low light what is achievable with Filmic Pro. So if we can go over to that film now, that would be great. Oh, well, that's technology for you. Apologies there. I think we lost the audio actually on the video there. But hey, you know, you could see the visuals and you could see what's possible, you know, using the Filmic Pro app under low light. And I think that's the challenge in today's world is low light, and how do we get the right ISO settings and the right shutter speed on a phone, which we're going to look at in this session. And I'm going to, a little bit later, connect my phone and show you through some interface and some basic setups and how to get started. But the essential thing, you know, I feel mobile filmmaking, don't think of it as a cheap alternative to filmmaking. It is a choice, and it's a choice you make using the tool to decide whether it's right for the specific project you're filming. And it may not be right for certain things, and it might be great for others. I mean, when I first started using phones on a much more professional level, you know, 6 years ago, over 6 years ago now, I could see it in documentaries, and that's kind of where I was at and what I wanted to continue with. And I got very excited at the immediacy of how creative and quick I could work, and how quick I could go on the streets and shoot the content I needed. And that really excited me. But since then, it's raced through the technology, and it's just advanced so quickly. And, you know, I didn't think 6 years ago that I'd be shooting music videos using a mobile phone, but I am. I wouldn't be thinking about shooting drama content, but I am. You know, that's where it's at now. And I think you can't ever compare mobile filmmaking to mainstream camera system filmmaking. They're two separate entities, and they are two very different art forms. And there are different skills that you need for those two different types of tools that you work with. I mean, I would obviously suggest, if you haven't, maybe many of you have, the frustration with this is that I can't engage with you, which is what I like to do in my workshops properly. So I haven't to guess. You know, some of you may already be professional filmmakers, some of you may be just starting. So bear with me on this, that I have to kind of start at the basis. So what I was saying is exploring what you can do with it is really important, and you need to know why you want to do it, and you know, where do you see yourself going with it. I did it because for personal reasons, I had some family tragedy, and that changed where I was going, and it's what worked for me at that time. And I don't look back. I've not shot with a mainstream camera system for 6 years now. Everything I shoot professionally, everything I do as a paid filmmaker is shot on a phone. And I don't regret 1 minute of it. Now, there are pros and cons, and we're going to look at that as well. And you have to get out of the mindset. If you want a DSLR quality video when you're shooting on your phone, you're not going to get it. You are going to get certain different things that are going to be really great, and then some things that are not going to work. So my method is that you have to know what your camera can do and what it can't do. And when you understand what it can do, that's when you can really explore creatively. And then you start to actually find, you know, that you're enjoying it, and you get some great shots with it. But if you need to wash away any background that you've had in working with mainstream cameras, it's like starting again. Obviously, filmmaking skills is integral. It is important to have the basic knowledge and some training maybe in filmmaking, but you need to sort of wash away everything that you've done before and literally start from afresh. And to be honest, at my age, I found that really exciting to be able to do that and start again and explore a whole new way of working with mobile phones to create content. And it doesn't cease to blow me away. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly show you a documentary trailer that I shot in Ethiopia as part of a feature documentary that I'm finishing. And also after that, you'll see a music video. I just want to give you variants and samples of what works with mobile phones. And just quickly about the documentary, this is the great thing about mobile filmmaking, and obviously for me using Filmic Pro, is that I could work very quickly, shoot in very restricted situations. I can cross borders. I can actually film in areas that I wouldn't have been allowed to film before because I'm using a mobile phone. And so that's really an interesting area, particularly if you want to get into Mojo, which is mobile journalism, or documentary filmmaking. There's huge scope for it in there when you've got your phone and your gimbal or a tripod, and you go out and you can shoot anywhere and get what you need. So over to the trailer and then straight onto the music video.
Stepping correct, pass that check, trying to get down on the set. Night chick setting that crep, and I got tech. Beat goes bounce on the bounce when I'm next. Stepping correct, pass that check, trying to get down on the set. Night chick setting that crep, and I got tech. Beat goes bounce on the next. I don't just bring a tide, I bring waves. Pass that shams where I'm putting that pain. Barker strained, then I'm putting that face. Arsenal's ticks, so I'm putting that dame. When I talk about a dame, what I meant was a Lizzie. Knows her worth, so I take her around the city. Turns me dizzy, pink confetti. Lost her now, gotta make it up with her quickly. I don't just bring a fire, I bring flames. Pass that rum, I ain't drinking that K. Regroup up, we was looking in space. I rock it, man, so the ship is engaged. And I'm untamed, see it in my main. Reason why my monkey's giving complaints. Reason why I'm gonna put food on her plate. Reason why the earth can't keep me away. Will. Stepping correct, pass that check, tryna get down on the set. Night chick setting that crep, and I got tech. Beat goes bounce on the next. Stepping correct, pass that check, tryna get down on the set. Night chick setting that crep, and I got tech. Beat goes bounce on the next. We was looking in space, I rock it, man, so the ship is engaged. Reason why the earth can't keep me away. 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 Tell me something, tell you something, tell you something.
Okay, so I'm not sure the quality of the videos that you're seeing your end, so I do apologise if there's been any technical hiccups. For some strange reason on my screen it's coming up very green, so those films weren't made very green in a sort of green hue, so try and ignore that. If that actually came up on your screen, it could actually just be my laptop that's done that. So let's start talking about Filmic Pro as an app and what it can do. And how you can get started, and just a couple of quick key points. As long as you've got Filmic Pro on your phone, it doesn't matter what phone you have. You don't need to have the latest model. You don't need to have anything particularly fancy. You can still get great quality video using whatever mobile you have, and don't think you need lots and lots of equipment to make it great. You don't. It's not the magic. You're the magic, because you're the one that has to do all the practice and the experimenting to get the quality of the footage that you want, and it's your skill that will be able to do that, not the tool itself. So don't get carried away going out buying lots of lenses or lots of external extra equipment and big fancy gimbals. You really don't need it. What you need to begin with is your phone, and obviously the Filmic Pro, and explore that first, and explore what you can do with it first before deciding on what other gear that you might need. Okay, so just bear with me a sec. I'm going to click over to the Filmic Pro interface. So I have to push a few buttons here, so bear with me on that one. Hopefully everyone can see what I'm seeing here. So this is your basic interface of Filmic Pro. Now, some of you may have already been using it, and obviously some of you have only just downloaded it and exploring it, so I have to take it from scratch, obviously, on a neutral page for everyone. So on your interface here, you've got obviously an audio feed. We have a time code sequence at the bottom of the screen, which is there. I'll just move this little circle over. This is your time code, obviously battery life, and memory. Oh dear, looks like I need to sort out and clear out some footage from it. So over the corner here, if we've got white balance. So this is white balance control. Why do we need that? Everywhere you film, whether it's exterior or interior, has what we call a color temperature. So it's really good to, the Filmic Pro's auto white balance on this, I find is really clever. And some, I do find on most occasions I don't manually need to correct it. If you just point it at something white in front of your shot, then let it do its auto white balance and it will hopefully come up with the correct colors. So then you push the red to lock it. There's a slight delay on the screen there, and the screen has frozen. Brilliant technology. Honestly, just let me be a camera operator. It's high-tech computer stuff. Here we go. It's come back again. I need to keep it quite close to the laptop, I think. Okay. It's very delayed on this. So we was just mentioning the white balance is a good, appears to me be about 15-20 second delay on this. Bear with me, it's catching up. There we go. Right, so obviously with the AWB there for color, your color correction, your white balance, when you push it red, it locks, or you can actually go into orange, orange mode, which means that it will correct itself just before you start recording. But also extra, you've got log capture. That's actually an additional. That's actually additional to Filmic Pro to download log capture. It is something that I use all the time. It behaves in a similar way to how you record on a professional camera system. Why do you have log capture? I'm not really going to go into great detail about it because I'm going to point you in the right direction to lots of different people that are brilliant at this and can really show you and explain to you in great detail in your own time by going to their YouTube channel. So I'll bring that up in a bit. But log capture is very key for me. It offers more dynamic range. It allows color grading. It's to do as much as you possibly can with color grading on a mobile phone. So come out of there. Now we've got these reticles in the middle. We've got a circle. I do apologize, but as I'm controlling the phone, the delay to the screen is quite significant at the moment. So just waiting for the log capture window to disappear. There we go. So in the middle, we've got a circle and a square. The circle represents your auto exposure levels. And the square reticle here is your focus, which you can lock. If you lock it, when they go red, and then you pan around, everything stays the same. The exposure will stay the same, and also the focus will stay the same. So be aware of that, because obviously if you're moving around quite a bit, it's not going to correct the focus because you've locked it. So I'm not a big fan of using auto. I try to shoot as manual as possible. So what I do prefer using is, and I'm going to click on it, and again, there's going to be a slight delay before it comes up on the screen. It's slow today. Sorry about this, everyone. Just waiting for it to catch up. And still not there. Don't you just love it when these things happen? Okay. Here we go. Right. So on the right-hand side, you've got focus, which is manual focus. And that is key to a lot of my work. The manual focus on Filmic Pro is brilliant. It's really responsive. And the action of it really feels like, if I start pulling focus now, what it really feels like is you putting the focus on a professional lens. You know, it's the same kind of action with the wheel. People say you can't really get depth of field using mobile phones. Yes, you can. It is slightly different, but every shot is possible in getting some depth of field to the image, so that you've got real sharp focus at the middle point and the background's out of focus. It is possible to do that on a mobile phone, but of course it's not going to look exactly like, you won't get the big bokeh effect that you do like on DSLR lenses. So Basic settings when you're starting out is I would always use manual focus. I like to be ready to pull focus when I'm filming, particularly if I'm on documentaries or if I'm moving around really fast. I want to be able to control that focus as quickly as possible and be able to pull focus onto the subject matters that are key in obviously whatever shot it is that you're capturing. And it does add a little bit of depth to your image and just makes it look better overall. And to be honest, pulling focus within a frame looks lovely anyway, and why not try it? In fact, I don't really see a lot of it being used, and it'd be great to see more of it being used. Now, on the left-hand side, these are really key, and some people do get a bit confused over the settings here. We have 148. Now, the reason that shutter speed, that bottom number is 148, is because I'm shooting at 24 frames per second. And so you have to double that on the shutter speed. Why? You get a much truer motion and movement to your shots, and it records much more in a sort of a human eye sort of filmic feel to it. So that's really key, that you always make sure your shutter speed is correct. Now, 148 is tricky to shoot when you're outside. You will find overexposure issues. And that's where you'll need to use what we call neutral density filters over the lens. It's like a pair of sunglasses that you have to put over the lens to get the right exposure so everything's not overexposed. So the top number above the 148 is the ISO settings. And again, it's going to be a massive delay. But the trick with the ISO settings is to be really careful how you use ISO on a mobile phone. It may look fine on the actual mobile screen, but trust me, when you get it onto your computer, you'll probably be disappointed with it if you've pushed the ISO too high. The higher the number, the more you're pushing exposure in the lens. But what happens is you get additional noise and grain in the image. So you need to avoid that by keeping your number as low as possible. Now, I'm actually still waiting for it to come back down. There we go. So I've dropped that to 38. I need to correct the shutter speed to 148. And that will just happen in a minute. Okay, there's still a little bit of a delay, I'm afraid, in the settings changing for you guys on the screen to see. But I've basically changed it to 148 shutter speed at around 37 ISO. I want to keep my ISO in that area, and if at all possible, depending on the lighting, drop it down to 32 and keep it there at all times as much as possible. That will give you the cleanest shots that you can get using the Filmic Pro app, and you'll be most pleased with the shots. So ISO needs to be as low as possible in number. Your shutter speed should be double what your frame rate is. So if you're shooting at 24 frames per second, you should then set it at 148. Click it red so it locks it. Now it won't move. While you're filming and recording, that won't change unless you physically actually change it. Now, what I'm going to do at the end of the session, because again, we haven't got huge amounts of time and there is a lot to get through with Filmic Pro, but I will point you again in the right directions to some great YouTube channels, and I will bring those up hopefully in the next five minutes or so. So there'll be links to Richard Lackey, who's an amazing color grader and has done fantastic things with mobile filmmaking and can really give you some insight into ND filters, color grading, working in low light. Great, really great stuff. So it's worth checking out that YouTube channel and subscribing to that. Also, Epic Tutorials. There's a whole series of tutorials on there. And what's brilliant about Epic Tutorials is that they break everything down into really nice, concise, short videos. So if you're struggling with exposure and shutter speed, there'll be a specific video about that. If it's about the focusing and how you can do auto and manual focus, there'll be a video clip for that specifically as well. And also about the presets, about color grading, everything, but it's all broken down. So it makes it really nice and easy to understand in small sections. So it's really worth checking out. The other thing I would want to point at is presets, and resolution levels. And what should you shoot at? What kind of level you should shoot at? Now, again, there's a bit of a delay, so I'm waiting for my little menu system to pop up. In the bottom right-hand corner is a cogwheel next to a play button. And if you click on the cogwheel, it comes up with various different things and options that you have in the menus to get your phone set up. The one thing I would say, if you're new to Filmic Pro, you must set up some shots for your presets. Because otherwise it goes to default and you have to keep resetting them every time you're filming, and it takes a bit of time. So it's good to have them already set up. So I'm just going to wait for this to come up. I guess it's bouncing everywhere from satellite to satellite. It's going from the UK over to LA. Oh, bing, there it is. Okay, cool. It's popped up. Right. So I'm scared now that if I push a button here, it's going to take forever to actually click on. So I've clicked on resolution, but there's absolutely nothing coming up on the screen. So that's going to take a bit of time. So the first tip, if you clicked on resolution, the first setting should be that you set your resolution at 4K and either choose 24 frames per second, 25 or 30 frames per second, depends if you're in the States. And then underneath that, you'll see something that says Filmic Extreme. This is the bit rate that it will record at, Filmic quality. If your phone can manage it, always shoot at the best rate that you can, which is Filmic Extreme. So 24K, Filmic Extreme, 16:9, which obviously is our standard widescreen format that we shoot in. And then you're pretty much set to go. And obviously then you will come out of resolution and go into frame rate. So now I've gone on to frame rate. This is now on 4K Filmic Extreme. So you go into frame rate and you make sure that if let's say, for example, you're going to shoot in 4K resolution at 24 frames per second, then you're in the frame menu, you should have 24 capture FPS and 24 playback. That's really essential. Playback is essential that it's the same, 24. Then you'll get the true 24 frame rate that you're recording at. Why do I shoot 24 frames per second? It edges it more towards the look that I like, which is more to the filmic end, to film, shooting with film. And I just prefer it overall. It gives a little bit more softness to the image. I know we're in high definition, but I'm not really aiming for really hard, sharp images. I kind of like the soft and a bit of focus pulling. It all really helps. So I'm just checking this. Okay. So again, sorry about the delay in this. Let me just close that down. Okay. The next thing is slow motion. Again, there's a bit of confusion about slow motion. I'm just going to quickly go over slow motion. I wish I had more time to help you on this. Slow motion. So you go back into resolution. Now, you have to check with, there's only so much. Filmic Pro's kind of done an amazing job in getting slow motion capability onto the actual software, the app itself. But obviously there are limitations to everything because it's about how it's compatible with the phone and the camera itself, and whatever makes it work, the processor, software, whatever jargon you want to call it. Hey, I shoot with cameras. I don't understand computers greatly. But you can shoot some amazing slow motion on Filmic Pro, and I have such fun doing it. It is brilliant. It is brilliant. Whether you shoot at 60 frames per second or 120 frames per second. But do note that you need to change your resolution levels. The higher you go, with the frame rate. So 120 frames per second is really slow. That's really slow. 240 obviously is insanely slow. But you do have to, when you go to those numbers, you need to bring your resolution level down. So you may have to drop with 120, you probably have to drop to 1080p to get 120 frames per second. You can get half slow motion at 60 frames per second, which is really cool in 4K. So that's really good that you can maintain that resolution level. The last thing I'm just going to quickly mention before we go over to some Q&As. I'm really sorry I've not had a lot of time to cover all aspects of it. I hope it just gets you started. Like I said, Epic Tutorials is awesome to check out on YouTube. You can sit down in your own time, chill out over a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, hey, whatever your vice is, and just take your own time in understanding the different parts of the interface of Filmic Pro through that. But I would say, do practice with your lenses, whatever lens you've got, whether you've got a, if I hold this up here, whether you've got a wide angle lens and a telephoto lens, or you've got the new phone, which is the ultra wide and so on, do check distances with your cameras. Okay, the worst thing that happens is people film, default with their wide angle lens, and then they go really close in on the subject, and it actually distorts the image. And we don't want that. You need to understand your physical distance from the lens to the person you're filming. When you get close to them with wide angle lens, try it now, film a cup or film whatever is in front of you and go close to it. You will see that it will start to create a bit of a fisheye effect. It will push all the lines out. And it's just not a nice image unless there's a specific reason for it. Generally, it's not a nice image, and it's what we want to avoid. So do actually, when you're using Filmic Pro, do practice and change the lenses, look at your telephoto lens, look at your wide angle lens, and see how it works with distances to subjects. Use the telephoto if you need to get closer, of course. Don't use zoom. Zoom is not real, it's a digital setup. All zooms on phones. I don't just mean in Filmic Pro, in all phones, it's rubbish. It's just cropping in on the original image, and that's why you end up with horrendous noise. So you can't get around that, okay? I mean, if it was real, if it was an optical zoom, a huge lens would come out the back of your phone and scare the crap out of you. So that's not gonna happen. I mean, hey, who knows what's gonna happen next year with technology? But for now, it's not. So try to avoid zoom. Okay, I'm just gonna come out of Filmic Pro because there's massive delays on the connection to my phone and the screen, so I do apologize for that. Just going to stop the share and go back into here. Okay, so just going to have a look at, oh, we've got some questions coming in, so let's do a time check. Yeah. I'd like to mention, I don't know if they're coming up on your screen yet, but it would be great. Some of the links that I would recommend, as I mentioned earlier, is Richard Lackey, if you want to look at how color works in Filmic Pro, color grading, and he's done some great videos. They're beautifully shot videos, actually. And how do you use an ND filter? What is its purpose? How does it work? What is it there for? So do check out his website. Also check out Epic Tutorials, as I mentioned. If you want to go down the route of the big sort of movie look in your mobile filmmaking, there is one specific lens that I would recommend if you want to really go anamorphic, like big. Moondog Labs. Beautiful glass, brilliant. And I think I've tested a few, and I'm not going to mention the names of the others that I've tested, but I've been always really pleased with Moondog Labs lenses. And I think they spend a lot of time getting it right. So a little bit on the pricey side, but you are paying for the quality. And if that's where you want to go, that's worth investing in. That would be my own personal recommendation. And as far as editing is concerned, you've got LumaTouch, which I'm really impressed with. I don't know how they do it, but it works brilliantly. It's a fantastic editing app. It really gives you everything you need. And last year I used it in South America filming a documentary on the rescue of an elephant, which was with fantastic Claire Sandberg, who was producing it from Filmic Pro's headquarters. And it was a brilliant experience. And editing in the back of a car using LumaTouch was a real godsend, actually, because it really helped us to understand what we were shooting and how piecing together. So check them out, LumaTouch as well. So we've got a few questions here. Question from Carl. Do you think there will always be a place for large-scale cameras, or do you see a future where everything can be done on a phone? Yeah, I touched on that a little bit earlier. Yeah, mobile phones. I think it's a separate tool. It's a separate entity. I look at it as an art form, and it's its own different art form. It won't take over mainstream camera systems. Both have their places. I think mobile phones are still finding their place in the industry, and slowly more and more professionals are taking it on board. And it will certainly have a place in mainstream. It's already here on news channels. Mojo journalists still use it, are using it to create stories. It's being shot and used in documentaries. I think it will always have a place, but I think it's always good to have as many tools available that you can choose what is the right tool for your project. Question from Jenna: are there specific conditions where a phone just doesn't work, or you do find it works in all conditions? I personal experience of that. Yeah, there have been times where the phone's overheated, or it's crashed, or there's always an issue with battery. Or the newer phones are getting a lot better. Always have a portable charger with you. Most definitely. I think there are certain conditions that the phones I found in extreme humidity in different climates that I was filming in that could be a slight problem, but there are things being invented now that actually help you get around that problem. So I'm finding it less and less. I'd say 3 years ago was having as you would with a computer, it crashes, you've got to reboot, you've got to do this, the problems. But I'm finding that a lot less now in 2020. I don't get those technical problems really that often now. Okay, so I'm just thinking of time. Just looking at some fab questions here. There's so many nice questions from people. Do you see? Sorry, question from Jack. Oh, hang on. Question from Penny. Do you film on DSLR or do you shoot primarily on phone? Penny, I haven't shot on a mainstream camera system like an Arri or a Red or a DSLR camera for over 6 years. Everything I do as a professional filmmaker is shot on a phone. Everyone who hires me knows that that's what they get, me filming on a phone. I literally have not shot a single shot on a mainstream camera for 6 years now. My wife calls it a midlife crisis. I just call it a whole new way of exploring creativity, and it's what works for me and it's what excites me. Question from Jack: do you see smartphones getting to a point where the filming quality will overtake cameras? Similar to one of the questions before, I think they'll always be different. I do think the quality is going to just keep improving. I think there's still going to be a separate entity, and I think I prefer the fact that we have choice, that we can choose what cameras we want to work with, and phones will work and get better in the quality as technology moves forward, and so you'll have more choice. Where it could be in 5 years, I don't know. If someone said to me 20 years ago, hey, Cass, your big 16mm camera system there, if, in the future, in 20 years, you're going to be filming on a phone, I'd be like, whoa, that's nuts. But who knows what's around the corner. Just scrolling down, looking at some other questions. Viewed on a computer. I'm trying to think. God, there's so many. I'm trying to scramble through them. What is the oldest flagship phone that you would consider to have a decent camera? And this is from Random Fandom Media Group. That's quite a cool name. Okay. What is the oldest flagship phone that you would consider to have a decent camera on? Wow. Well, I started filming on an iPhone 4 and loved it. And I think you could still go back. I don't know on the Android side, but I know on an iPhone, I could go back to an iPhone 4, 4S, and I did some really good stuff on those phones. So yeah, maybe it was that model that kind of changed it. Was kind of when I started to really get into it. Yeah, cool. I think time's up on the questions. I'm just checking in just to see if we're all good. No, I think we can go on a little bit longer. So let me have a. Oh, that's cool. I like questions. It's good. Let's have a look now. See if there's another one we can pick out. Is there a question from, is there a difference between shooting a project that will be viewed on mobile versus something viewed on a computer or television? Should I film differently if I'm planning on sharing it via YouTube? No, I think, well, you know, okay, good question. Mobile's a tool. And I think you need to go into it just as a filmmaker and treat the phone as a professional camera using Filmic Pro app because it will get you the quality you need. Is there a difference? Yes, there can be a difference, but it really depends on how you approach it. If you go in there with your skills and your knowledge as a filmmaker, you should be able to, we're at a level now where you should be able to shoot a mobile video as such, and not have to tell people. People may not actually see the difference in the quality. You have to have a bit more consideration with a mobile phone if you intend to put it onto a big screen. It can be projected onto a cinema screen in 4K resolution, and it has, and of course feature films have been done that way, but you do have to spend a lot more attention on lighting, particularly, and working under low light. There is a really tricky areas that you've got to, think about. And to be honest as well, you've got to keep in your mind that, the mobile phone, even though it's got these nice cameras on it, it is a computer. It's a processor. So you do have to go at it in a slightly different angle, but you could actually get really good results that are comparable to certain other film shoots, most definitely. Okay. Let's see now if there's anyone else. No, I think that's about it for now. Check out my YouTube channel if you can. I'd be really grateful if you'd subscribe. I kind of only do it just because I love interacting and I love showing other people what's capable with mobile filmmaking, and I'd love to be able to continue that. So do subscribe. Hopefully it will come up on the screen. And also I do training as well. At the moment, obviously with COVID-19 and safety and precautions, but go to mobilefilmmaking.com where there'll be, and there's lots of tips on there and advice. I've done a budget gear page, which will really sort of give you a list of bits of equipment to use and handheld rigs, and how do you keep the costs really low, and how do you get some basic things just to get you started, and a couple of things about audio and microphones and stuff on there. So that's really cool. And obviously various different training programs available on mobilefilmmaking.com. And if you want to check out some of my professional work, go to gofilmit.tv. Bit confusing, all these different websites. And hopefully you've had the links and they've come up for the mobile filmmaking with Richard Lackey, Epic Tutorials. And do check out filmicpro.com as well. There's some really inspiring videos on there. Really good to check out. So go on there, look for some inspiration, and really they've got lots of films up on filmicpro.com, and really great examples of what professionals are doing with the phones and using the Filmic Pro app, whether it's from commercials, branding, short films, music videos. There's a whole array of stuff on there, and even I sometimes go and check it out and go, wow, there's some really good stuff on there. So do check it out. Cool. If there's no final questions, I'm just thinking, yeah, I think that is it. Oh, there's one new. Oh, it's pinging away. Oh, there's more stuff coming in. Oh, okay, okay. We're okay to. Oh, we're good to wrap. Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me. Sorry about some of the connection issues and the slowness of connecting the phone. Would love to have shown you a little bit more of the actual app itself and what it does. But like I said, there's lots of interesting links to check out that will get you on that journey and start you out. And like I said, the main thing is just know what the lenses can do on your phone and what they can't do. And when you get to that point in practicing with it, then you'll get to understand how it can work for you and how you can get really creative with it and explore different angles. And that's the great fun with mobile filmmaking, is that it takes no time to set up all those different shot angles. So cool. Really appreciate you spending the time here. Thanks very much, everyone. Cheers.